Good morning and welcome to the new episode of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Yet another mass shooting, and that too in a elementary school where young innocent students were just killed, 19, and two teachers. And this was done not by an adult full age, hardly in teens, 18-year-old. And one of the worst things that a parent can discover, as the parents of this child must have discovered, I'll call him a child, that something has been happening in USA. Something that has assumed the proportions of an epidemic. The question that faces the people of the world is, what motivates these shooters? These shooters of the schools? The people who drive buses in a crowd to kill people? The terrorists? What motivates them? Especially in the schools, where the targets are victims of motiveless malignity. And allied to the question is the situation what beyond redemption? Is the case really hopeless? For the parents of the shooters, of course, is the heart-wrenching discovery that they have produced a monster who could kill these innocent children. Details emerge. But looking at this particular murder, first he shoots his grandmother, then drives her vehicle to the elementary school and murders 20 more people. 21 more people. He abandons his vehicle after crashing it in large ditch and continues to school. He is wearing a military vest, carries a semi-automatic rifle, a handgun and extra ammunition, and starts on a killing spree. The whole thing is a nightmarish scenario. And then, unfortunately, I call it mortalist malignity because he doesn't have a manifesto. He leaves no reason for having done this. The jihadis, the terrorists at least have the camouflage of dying and killing for their religion. And the law enforcement officials do not know why he decided to commit the second deadliest shooting in American history. But the answer is clearer and more troubling than you might think. The whole thing starts in the home. This guy was son of Salvador Sr. and Adrian Ramos, and both have criminal history. They separated when the son was young. Ramos lived with his mother after his parents separated, but then would often have screaming matches with her, so intense that the police was called on several occasions. He physically attacked his mother multiple times, and if he was left or was kicked out of the house. He then lived with his grandparents. His grandfather said that his grandson was quiet and stayed in his room a lot. But he posted a lot on social media. He purchased 2 semi-automatic rifles. And the grandparents never knew about it. Now this is something. Your child lives with you and you don't know what he's doing. The so-called concept of privacy is in fact leading to lack of communication. A child would always say, well, it's my privacy, don't disturb me. And you say, okay, you don't want to hurt his hurt feeling. I'm not a votary of King Solomon when he said spare a rod and spoil a child, but I'm quite careful that the communication must be there. So, the family life of this guy went from bad to worse. And then it came to the stage where unthinkable happened. And notice that you will not read in any of the reports where was his father. The loss of the father and the absence of the father is one of the major contributions to the rise of delinquency and this murder. How many fathers and mothers of the new generation know what their sons and daughters are doing? And they are dying in a horrible way because the family is no longer a family. So, beyond redemption it's not. Although the pointers are. And the pointers are very clear that if you do not have family ties, if you do not have the supporting stuff of the family, you are going to be a freak. This boy's mother and father didn't stay together, didn't love this child, did not properly discipline the child, did not educate the child, did not influence him, did not raise the child. Hilda Clinton might say it takes a village to raise a child. No, it takes a family to raise a child. A village is full of the disparate elements, and many of them in the village would have no interest in that. They did not motivate the child, the parents. The parents are supposed to have ethical values instilled in the child. They did not. But someone did. And who did it? The people say there is no spirit world and there are no demons. There are demons. There are demons of the anti-social activities. There are the demons of the drug trade, of the prostitution. This young man partially and entirely became weak, non-existent family life, developed problems, stuttered, spoke with a lisp, did not know how to get along with others. He was bullied. He eventually started wearing black, growing his hair long, and even wearing eyeliner. Where did he turn? What did he do with him all the time in the room? You may find many more, but one thing we know, he turned to the violent video games. In addition to the skipping matches with his mother, he found time to ride around at night, firing a BB gun at random passers-by and throwing eggs at cars. He should have attended classes at the high school, but his grandfather said he did not go there most of the last year. He was not on track to graduate. He did have a job at a fast food restaurant, but he had an aggressive streak. Now this aggressive streak was born out of three reasons. A, loneliness. B, lack of family support. C, the video games. So when the child got in a dispute with his grandmother, and nobody knows what the dispute was about, whether it was over his failure to graduate or over a telephone bill or something else, we don't know. But what he did next was horrible. Imagine, the parents are going through, the parents of the killed children are going through what the parents earlier had gone through in 2012 in Newton, Connecticut, where another teenager boy, Adam Lanza, also had a major problem, a major family problem. He killed 20 school children, 6 adults, and Sandy Hook Elementary. Now, political pundits on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, have launched into their explanations. Radical liberals, like former President Barack Obama, quick to say the problem is the gun. So ban the guns. Why do they not ban the cars? Because once or twice, I think, a car has been driven in a crowd, killing innocent people. Banning guns is not a solution. Control, yes. Banning, no. So on one side is this, the other side is the gun lobby. And Republicans who have shown no willingness to act in that way. And yet the percentage of the Americans who own a gun has been declining automatically since 1970. This fact nobody knows. That people by and large themselves are not buying guns. except these youngsters, unmotivated or motivated by the evil influences. It's not the guns that have changed the society. Let's be very clear. It's the people. Tomorrow, suppose somebody comes up with a knife and starts stabbing people. Would start banning knives? No. You have to stop the person. It's not the gun which kills, it's the people who use the gun. Mark Hemingway, a senior writer, notes on a Twitter, I just happened to have a look at it. The fact is that there are no big advances in firearm lethality compared to what citizens could hold decades ago, before we had ever mass shootings. I am open to hearing about gun legislation, but it's a culture that has changed to enable this, not the guns. And that's what I'm saying. It's a culture. And the culture includes A, breakdown of the family life, B, loss of the ethical values, C, unnecessary and uncalled for attention to the privacy. In short, majority of the Americans and most of the people all over the world, except in some places, have forgotten how to raise the children. And that's why some of them, in extreme cases, are getting more and more frequent and are murdering children. Names, there are plenty of such murders. Ramos, Salvador, Adrian Ramos, Martinez. The whole thing is, I'm not saying that the parents wanted the child to become a monster, but they contributed to it. There is a spirit of hatred, murder and evil that's out there. And that is not only in that family that you see, they also see on video game console that is streaming over Wi-Fi. And that is after your children. And if people don't know and act on this right now, the right spirit, the right way, then they are going to be raised by that spirit, invisible, but concrete as far as the effect is concerned. And that spirit is even worse now than it ever has been. If you go by the statistics put up by the Stanford Geospatial Center mass shooting database, this sea change began after something particularly dramatically happened in 1987. And the tide turns in 1997. What happened? Law started to get a lot weaker. You could do something. Well, this boy has a bad mother. He was brutalized, so he has to die. Let's not punish him. This is a psychological case. So when laws start becoming weaker, and lawlessness then automatically becomes stronger, much stronger. And that's what happened in 1986. I still don't understand what motivates people to do this. Said just now Tucker Carlson last night. And he asked Judge Jenny Pirro if somebody had done a systemic study of the mass shooting. And Judge Pirro told him that the question was for sociologists and psychologists. And they don't want to answer it because that goes against the political correctness. It's not politically correct to say that there should be still the power of the father and the mother, love of the mother to sustain a cohesive family. And prosecutors don't want to answer questions like one Carlson asked. But then there has been a systematic study. And one study by Brent Wilcox at the Institute of Family Studies is very pertinent. As the nation seeks to make sense of these senseless shootings, we must find a way, this is what he writes, that the uncomfortable truth that turmoil at home is the main reason for the turmoil we end up seeing every day in our streets and especially in the schools. The social scientific evidence about the connection between the violence and the broken homes could not be clearer. And then when you say What happens in this world? You start with a boy, take away father, sit him in the front of the screen all day, then feed him with pornography, feed him with endless stream of content, give him no ethical values, no guidance, no companionship, give him drugs, isolate him. What will be the result? A school shooter, a monster. So while the percentage of the Americans who own guns may have declined, the percentage of Americans who don't have a stable family has gone up. And that's why such shootings take place. This is a cause and effect. There's a cause for every problem. And the cause for the violent and bloody crime is that society has rejected the basic values and the sustaining families. That law, that ethics could bring peace and abundance in society in every way. And the more we transgress it, the worse our bloody crime becomes. The Texas elementary school shooting is the proof of the statement that the American society has become practically unethical, uncivilized, uncultured. Civilization doesn't mean wearing tattoos. No, it means abiding by certain ethical principles. And that's why the demons of drug, prostitution and others are exploiting the void to create a world where corrupted youth commit horrific crimes, one after the other. And then let's not forget, an empty mind is devil's workshop, and a mind not filled with ethical values, a mind not sustained by the family, would believe that the whole world of ethics is fancy. The only thing real is physical matter and rights. And that's a spirit dimension, a right spirit, a wrong spirit. That's what the motivation is. This American society is unraveling because of a forsaken the basics, sustaining family, sustaining connectivity, interaction, intercourse, human interaction, communication. And that is what is causing it. So whether it's beyond redemption, no, it's not. Come back to the reality and you would find that shootings would still take place, but not as horrific as it is. And then another thing, what's happening is that now is that media is covering it in a very intense manner. Everybody in the world, not just the US, knows what's happening just a few minutes after it's happened. And so there's a worldwide consciousness now what never existed before. But there where we would be if we were not aware. And with a lot of form of violence in America, we have a pretty violent phase. The world was not more peaceful 50 years ago or 100 years ago. That's not true. They were shooting at that time. They were killing even at that time. But it was not reported. And the more you report these incidents, you are giving oxygen to these monsters. They say, okay, if we die, we still have a fame. So this oxygen being given by the media to this crime. And the second big piece of this is obvious, that farm that progress to a degree where you can kill a lot of people very fast. So you have access to that. So what then the third is, media is really not talking about, we have framed it as the deranged for individual action. It's not deranged. It is deranged, but it's not individual. It's a social action. These people are basically trying to drive. And the last piece is ideology. If you look at other countries, mass shootings do happen. But they happen for political reasons. They happen all over South America, in Middle East, where people feel justified for political, social, economic reasons to kill. But in USA, they kill for no reason at all. And taking away guns alone would not solve. Building up institutions would solve. Building up ethical values will solve. And if you don't do that, then you have got to live with this. And that is the unfortunate aspect. You have got to control comes, you have got to build up situations, and then there's hope. Otherwise, you have to be ready for such disasters happening again and again and become a part of daily life. Thank you.